Good evening and welcome. It's the big one, Tuesday night. Off we go to Chesterfield. It's a sellout, 10 points from our last 4 games, a clean sheet at Woking. The resurrection of Eli Sam, my lord. Ian Birchinall called for a response after that Grimsby defeat, and we appear to be getting one. What are your thoughts on tomorrow night's game? Then let's hear from all of you. 500 plus who were down at Woking on Saturday. Chloe Page joining us straight from BBC Radio Nottingham, and maybe, just maybe, Leigh Curtis is putting in an appearance for us. He's a bit busy filing stories on knots and pre-match previews and all the rest of it, but he's hoping to join us for a few minutes later on in the show. Plenty of messages already coming in from our flock. Chloe, good evening.
Hi, Paul. You all right?
Yeah, we're very well. Woking, you were down there with your granddad. What did you make of it?
3 points. That's all that I asked for. We needed it, I think, after Tuesday. And it was, in fact, probably a completely different game to Tuesday in terms of chances. I think we probably controlled the game the same. Had a lot of possession, as we kind of tend to do. Chances were kind of few and far between. But it was nice to see that we actually took them. We all kind of went on Tuesday night, and I don't think I've ever seen us have so many chances in the game and not really take any of them. So it was nice to kind of see a bit of a difference, not get many chances, but actually take the 3 points, 2-0, clean sheet, and then happy days, come back home. So it's not very often that we come back from London with a win. We're always sat on that train on the way back looking at each other like it's not happened again, has it? But no, we were pleased to get back on that train on Saturday.
Yeah, and I thought I actually took some confidence, particularly in the second half, in respect that the game was never really in any doubt. I didn't think, I think we closed the game out. Don't think, I can't remember a proper save from Jaros, and I just thought it was kind of like an efficient win. I know our statistical friends produce XG factors and all the rest of it all the time, but I thought it was an efficient win. There weren't any Looney Tunes from set pieces and those sorts of things. I think it was a good solid 3 points. And hopefully we'll find out the latest from Cal Roberts in a little bit, hopefully from Leigh Curtis, but no knocks as far as we're concerned from Saturday. So I thought it was a job well done. Well done. Plenty of comments coming in. Matthew Cook says, I already feel sick with nerves and excitement about tomorrow. Nick G, ever the optimist, have a feeling this game will be called off. Apparently it's, he described it as flooding in Derbyshire. I would be surprised. Look, they're a proper club, whatever we may or may not say about our local rivals, proper pitch. I would not anticipate, he says famously, too many problems. I do remember going, must be 2 years ago now, when it was really hard to get into Chesterfield. If you remember, there were floods everywhere, and a lot of the approach roads you couldn't get in. The pitch was fine, but a lot of the approach roads coming in and off the motorway were really bad. And I think the big railway, the roundabout, was shut, wasn't it? Because it was under about 4 foot of water. That rings a bell.
Yeah, definitely. But like you say, well, we kind of see a bit of rain now, and just before an away game, we're like, that's it, it's going to be off just because of what we've had this season. But like you say, I remember that as well, and especially that road being closed because it kind of goes under. It actually dips rather than just being straight. Just as you get to that roundabout, and like you say, the pitch was absolutely fine. It's just you might get a bit wet walking to the ground. As long as it's on, I don't think anyone's bothered.
Yeah, I mean, I would not anticipate any problems, but let us see. Nigel Cameron, Sam is our rough diamond. IB dare not drop his star man. We'll be talking about Eli in a moment or two. Kian Henson, obviously 6 points out of 6 will be the best result in both matches against Chesterfield. But if we can get 4 from 6, that wouldn't be too bad at all. Ian Birchnell, evening all. Nick G didn't say there was. I've lived here 30 years. The weather is not good tonight, pal. Well, my son's doing his walk tomorrow, so by the sounds of it, he needs to be packing his waterproofs. He's leaving Meadow Lane at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. I shall be dropping him off, and then he can walk the remaining 28 miles. I thought it was a bit much to ask him to walk to the ground 5 miles from Gedling. And he should be getting there 5 or 6 o'clock in the local pub with his mates. Anyone who would like to donate, the details are on the bottom of this, on his Just Giving page. Raised almost £500, so thank you to everyone for their contributions. Very much appreciated. Those monies will be donated in their entirety to Lifeline to commemorate Colin Slater at the club. Gareth Jones, I'm sure subject, this is the obvious. Are the tickets from December the 21st postponed game valid for tomorrow? So let's just get the ticketing sorted. Firstly, it's a sellout. Secondly, it's the same tickets, correct, Chloe?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yes. I must admit, I was looking for about 40 minutes this morning for my 2 tickets for me and Harry, because I couldn't quite remember what I'd done with them. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are some fans, I don't know whether you've had anyone ringing you up in the ticket office, Chloe, saying, I've lost my ticket, can you do me a replacement? I suspect the answer to that is no.
Yeah, so it really depends. You'd have to get in contact with the club if there's anything we could do about it. In certain cases we can, in certain cases we can't. It might go down to Chesterfield. So I would try and give Notts a ring as soon as you find out. I wouldn't kind of have a look 5 minutes before you leave and then not know where it is. So give Notts as much notice as possible. Obviously they're only open until 5. So yeah, give them some notice if you can't find it. Just another thing, I know there's been a lot of people trying to buy tickets, because even though we've had since December, obviously a lot of people didn't know it was going to sell out. So my only advice is obviously that it's technically sold out, but if there's any refunds or returns, that'd be your only kind of chance of getting a ticket. So if you are really desperate, the only thing I'd probably suggest is just give Notts a call on the off chance that someone has taken one back, because there's always, especially on the day, people that can't make it. So yeah, if you are desperate to go, just give Notts a call in the morning and they'll see what they can do for you. But obviously that's no promise either.
Yeah, and do be wary. I know that there have been 1 or 2 people been scammed on Facebook and what have you. Clearly tickets are in demand for this match, but as you've just said there, Chloe, probably the best bet is it's a 100 to 1 shot, but ring the ticket office. They may have had 1 returned at the very moment that you ring up. So let's see where you get to tomorrow. Nigel Cameron, it's set dry tomorrow. I'm sure the game will be on. Look, I don't anticipate any problems. And I'm sure Chesterfield, as a proper club, would keep us fully informed if there was. Max Seth, I may be getting ahead of myself, but I think Eli Sam is now 3rd name on the team sheet behind Cameron and Palmer. Gary Wardle, 4 wins behind Stockport, who had a slow start and now flying with Challoner, only 16 games to go. Ian Birchnell, start to a tough month, 3 points would be great. Gary Wardle, 1 from, I can't quite work that one out, not to worry. Chris Gosling, Chesterfield's pitch looked pretty bad on Saturday. I do have problems. I've been spoken to Leigh a little bit earlier. They've got 8 players out, including Hayden Hollis. So there will be no return, as far as we're aware, of Hayden in the starting lineup or on the bench against Notts. Kel Roberts, I understand it's kind of a 50-50, took a knock on his knee, wasn't involved Saturday, and I think it's kind of like a touch and go for tomorrow evening. Eli Sam, Chloe, fought his way back into the team, scoring a goal a game at the moment. What do we think?
What more can you ask, really? I mean, I can't fault him at the minute. I think we'd have all had our opinions on him previously. I think last season I did kind of see some potential in him. He obviously played quite a lot of the FA Trophy games. Never really got a look in league games. You could tell he had something, but I don't know whether the manager thought he was ready or not. But I mean, ever since I think it was that Wrexham game, he came on. I think he might have even come on at half time. And it was quite early on in the game, and that was kind of it from there. He was in and he's scoring goals, impacting the game. It's great. I know he plays out on the wing, but it's nice to actually have two strikers on the pitch, whether he's playing on the wing or not. I know kind of strikers is a hot topic at Notts, as it has been all season, as it is every season. But yeah, it's great. He had some height. I don't know whether he gets to every ball with his head, but he certainly makes up for it for what he does with his feet. He's great with the ball at his feet. Scoring goals, what more can you ask? Especially if Button's going through a little bit of a patch where he's not scoring so many. Eli's picking that up. So it's great to see someone different again. We've got it's not really a change in formation, but it's just kind of a change in personnel. He's bringing something different. And like you say, all he can do is score goals. And so I'm happy with what he's doing at the minute. And I agree, you can't leave him out at the minute, especially he played well against Saturday, again scored. So yeah, Ian can't really be dropping him, I don't think, at the minute. I know past a couple of games he's been bringing him off. I think he's had kind of like his muscles been tightening at the end of the game. So as long as he's all right from Saturday, I think he'll be in.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly now moved ahead of Cairo in the pecking order and does seem to be holding down a regular position, which I'm sure he's pleased about. Aaron Porter says, I've been very critical of Eli in the past. I humbly eat my hat. Eli has been incredible in recent games. His first touch, sublime. Chris Gosling, I think we all thought there was a player there, but wasn't sure we'd ever see his potential unleashed. But credit to Eli, I think he's worked on his overall game and took his chance. Aaron adds, Eli has been incredible in recent games and his first touch has been sublime. I think he just basically reworded the previous message, I think, there. Ian Birchnell thought Eli was strong on the ball Saturday for his goal, did superbly, and the defender bounced off him. Eli's kind of run has also kind of coincided with a change in formation as well, Chloe, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we've gone to the 4 at the back, 4-2-3-1. And I guess one of the interesting points would be clearly Kyle is the out and out number one and plays as the lone striker. Do we think now that Eli, that kind of inside forward old style position that he's got is really the place for him? Would we foresee a time where if Kyle was injured, do we think Kyle could play, that Eli could play the out and out number 9 role? Or are we thinking he's much better suited, and the way he's playing at the minute, to this kind of inside forward role?
I think at the minute I keep him where he is. It's working. It's a difficult one if Wootton gets injured, because I think playing him on his own kind of up front is a bit of a different scenario, and I haven't really seen it, not recently anyway. We might have seen him in previous games last season play up on his own. I'm not sure. He can hold the ball up quite well, and his physicality is getting a lot better, actually. I thought the first couple of times we saw him this season that he was getting pushed off the ball a little bit, and I was thinking he's kind of 6'5". Should that really be happening? But he's really improved on that recently, which is adding something else to his game. He's improving every week. Obviously, he's got good height to be up front. It's just whether he can let the ball stick like Wootton can do. We'll see. I think Ian would certainly try it. I think we'd also, if for argument's sake, Wootton did get injured and we knew he was out for the rest of the season like Shamanga, I'm sure that we'd go and sign another centre forward, whether that was to kind of sit on the bench and let Sam have a go first, or whether he'd come straight in. It's a difficult one, but for now, while we've got a fully fit squad, obviously maybe minus Cal, I'd keep him where it is at the minute. We've talked about the ball at his feet. Maybe he's not an out-and-out winger with his height. You don't really see many wingers over the 6 foot mark, but he's doing a job. He can cross a ball, but he can also get into the box and leave room for Chickson as well, coming down that side to put a cross in as well. So I don't even think he's really out as a out-and-out winger at the minute, kind of playing as a kind of as a 2 up with Kyle, but then out to the wing a bit more. I don't think he's got a kind of definite position, but it's working. Whatever he's doing is working.
Ian Birchinall says 4-2-3-1 has definitely favoured certain players. Chicks, Francis, Sam and Roberts all blossoming in this formation. Kane Porter says, I think with Eli's height, he could definitely do a good job as a number 9 if Kyle is injured. Chris Gosling, if Roberts is out, are we saying stick with Nemane, or is there a case for bringing Vinny in? Nick G, think Kyle is missing too many chances. Eli takes the pressure off him. Hopefully he will bag a couple tomorrow night. I think it's always a challenge when you are the sheer physical size, height of Eli. You automatically get pigeonholed as a form of a striker to be a target man, and I think Eli is a very different player when he's running up towards goal than when he's got his back to goal, which clearly Kyle, a lot of the time, as the sole striker, normally you have to get those. You mentioned, Chloe, the ball comes in and it has to stick. And I think the other challenge sometimes that Eli has is 6'5", and we all expect someone who's 6'5" to be an excellent header of the ball. Now Eli's not on his own. You can think back to other players. Peter Crouch, would always say, I would rather have had the ball coming into me to my feet. I could head it, but I wasn't as good with my head as people expect me to be. I think Eli's kind of in that mould. And I seem to remember on this show, probably 2 months ago, we were talking about players who, at that moment in time, you think, oh, they're not going to be involved. The reality is, if we're going to be successful between 2 months ago and the end of the season, every player in this squad, somewhere along the way, will come in. They might just come off the bench once and score a goal. They might come off the bench once and help keep a clean sheet. Now, what Eli's done, he's kind of come from 0 to being a main man at the minute. So fair play to him. He's done well. He's in the team on merit. And if you look at the comments now, I don't think too many people would have been saying 2 months ago, Eli Sam is a shoo-in for a starting 11.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And we can say this about other people we've got on the bench. I know a lot of comments are coming in about Aaron Neman, and now do you start him after he's come in and got 2 assists? It's a good talking point, and it's probably the problem the manager wants to have, as any manager would. The only problem that you want to have is, I don't know who to pick. But yeah, so it's so hard to predict, isn't it? Who's going to come good at what time. It's just worked perfectly. And I completely agree with everything you've said about Eli, and that he's maybe not the player that you expect him to be, but you might prefer the player that he actually is. I much prefer seeing strikers or just players in general that are good with the ball at their feet. I think that's what it's all about. I know Not's posted a little video of some good footwork from him and Rodriguez as well. And stuff like that is great to see in the National League. I think a few times we've been on Soccer AM for having a couple of players doing some fancy footwork. So it's great to see. And it's okay when you're winning. I don't know if I'd quite want to see all of that if we're kind of 2-0 down, but it's great to see. And he's got some confidence. That's what it shows me. And ever since he's come in, since kind of that Wrexham game, he's got better and better each game, and you're seeing him improve every game. And completely fair play to him. He must have got his head down, worked so hard, listening to what the manager's saying. He's linking up with other players, and you can just tell how much of it is improved. I talk about physicality, where he's come from in just a couple of weeks. So what else can he improve on? How far can he take us? And if we get in them playoffs, is he first name on the team sheet? We'll have to wait and see.
Debate about Aaron Nemane. Chris Gosling says, I just worry Nemane won't deal with defensive responsibilities as well against a stronger team. I think Aaron also, it's one of those, isn't it, that when you're playing if he's carrying on playing the 4 at the back, which I suspect he will, I don't think he'll change it. You've already got Jayden as an out-and-out right back. And so therefore, as a right-sided midfielder, there isn't quite the onus to track back as much as when you are in when you've got the 3 at the back. Then clearly the wing backs have got to get up and down a bit more. But with the 4 at the back, people like Nemani have a little bit more license to be more up the top end of the pitch, which I think helps. And to be fair, there are not many fitter or quicker players in this league than Jayden Richardson. You know, the number of times he is up there. You know, he is a speed machine with a great engine. So I'm not sure I would necessarily see that as being an issue for Aaron. 1 or 2 injuries, I guess, have kept him out of availability. But it's his chance, particularly while Cal is not 100%. Nick G says Eli reminds me of Devon White, big Devon White. Remember him? You're too young, Chloe. Yeah, big Devon. I do remember him. Nigel Cameron in Wootton, Rodriguez, Roberts, and now Sam. We must have the most prolific strike force in the division. Everything is possible this season if we can keep it tight at the back. Ian Birchinall, Nemani, and Richardson versus Miller, Calvin Miller. I think Miller will be too busy to worry about getting forward. If he does, you'll have some ground to cover if we win the ball and attack down the right. Matthew Cook raises an interesting debate. Ed Francis or Vinny for tomorrow night? Who would you start? Chloe?
I think purely from minutes played, you'd probably start Francis. It's difficult in a game like that to bring Vincent back in. It's difficult to say. I really like Vincent, and I'm not really sure why he was dropped. Didn't really see him do much wrong. But at this point, I think you've got to stick with someone that's been playing with the team for the last few weeks. But that's not to say I don't like Vincent and wouldn't be happy to see him in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I recall earlier in the season, the squad was rotated quite a lot, and people were telling me, you know, you don't keep unchanged teams anymore, the modern game, etc. We lost a couple, and then we went on a run of 4 or 5, and we kept the same team. And I would be surprised if there were any changes other than injuries, either for or against. You know, the team did a good job away from home on Saturday. So I think I would agree with you. I think, you know, a lot of people have been surprised. Vinny hasn't had more game time in recent games, but, you know, we've taken 10 out of 12, I think it is now, which was the response the manager was asking for after losing to Grimsby. So I would be surprised, shall we say, if Ed Francis wasn't in the starting 11. And I would think that Ed Francis would have every entitlement to believe that he would be starting. Matthew Cook, I'm a big Vinny fan, but I think Francis offers us a bit more balance tomorrow. Gary Wardle, I prefer the 4-2-3-1, but guess it depends on who is fit. Chris Gosling, I'd stick with Francis and Palmer tomorrow night. Gary Wardle, Matthew, Vinny for me, but that said, Francis and Palmer have done well as a defensive midfield later. Ian Birchinall, Vinny's a great player, but in 4-2-3-1, Vinny is too adventurous for there, in my opinion. Inspector 71, in this formation, Francis has to play. This one's sparking quite a bit of debate. Need 2 anchors. Happy to sit, not another attacking centre midfielder. Big fan of Frankie Vincent, though. Chris Gosling, I'd rather see Vinny coming further up the pitch than in a holding 2. Yeah, so there's quite a bit of debate on that whole midfield axis that the club, and I think it was Ian Birchinall that said earlier in the conversation, I think probably a valid point, the 4-2-3-1 favours certain players and the skill sets that they have in terms of the head coach accommodating those players into that unit. And I guess Cal Roberts would be one. You know, we all think back to Kings Lynn, you know, where Kelly's playing, you know, left wing back or whatever it is, and was clearly struggling and wasn't happy. It moved, I think that was 4-2-3-1 second half, and put him up on the right side, got a hat-trick. And instantly things changed. So it is interesting. You know, it is interesting. You know, a lot of people were saying, you know, we will be wedded to a 5 at the back. At the moment, I'm not sure how many games it is now. 4, 5. We've played 4-2-3-1 for quite a while now. And we're getting results, and that is what it's all about. Max Seth, does anyone know what's happened to Taylor? Not even on the bench anymore. Chris Gosling, Vinny could play on the right though, Gary. He's created plenty of goals this season from those wide positions. I guess a lot of it though is, you get the results and you don't make too many changes. Right. So let's have a look at the league table, eh? Let's have a look at this league table. And it's amazing when you look at it, depending after what game and after what we've done, you either write us, or some people write us off completely and say there's not a prayer we can finish top and we'll finish 7th. And then when you win 1 or 2 and others slip up, and Boreham Wood aren't playing, their game tomorrow night has been cancelled. They obviously won't, because they've got the FA Cup. And then you think, well, if we win this one and that one, and oh, hang on a minute, it's not that far off. So the table as it stands, we're in 7th. If we win tomorrow, we would then be assured of being at least 5th. Wrexham play tomorrow. They play Kings Lynn. You don't see Wrexham not beating Kings Lynn at home. So were we to win tomorrow, we will be up to 5th. We are 12 behind Stockport, but we have got 2 games in hand and we have got to play them. Now, the debate about the championship, the debate about playoff places, that's a debate that the skipper, Carl Cameron, has entered into today. And he said, we can still get the title, which is good to hear. What do we make of this promotion playoff championship picture, Chloe?
I think you've summed it up perfectly, that we go... The first thing I do, and I'm sure everyone else does, is after the game, look at the results and then look how far away we are. And like you say, Tuesday night, everyone was probably kind of like, look what we could have done. We could have gone above Halifax. I was doing the same. And it really felt like 2 points dropped, especially with how the game played out. And then it's a case of, we're falling a little bit further behind, but then we go and beat Woking, so then we're back in it again. And this is how it goes every week. It's so difficult because especially we've got a difficult run of games coming up and they're all playing all teams around us. If we can beat some of them teams around us, you're actually quickly catching them. Whereas if you're playing teams from kind of around the bottom half, you can't really tell as much. Chesterfield, we're advancing on them. We could advance on Stockport. We could advance past Dagenham and the other teams that we've got to play. Boreham Wood, again, obviously they've got a lot of games in hand. I don't particularly like to have games in hand. I'd rather have points on the board. But you've got to kind of consider who we are playing, Dover being one of them. I don't want to, again, say just add 3 points on, because something disastrous could happen and we haven't got them 3 points yet. So until we do, you've just got to see that as a game rather than 3 points. But definitely in the mix. I just think this run of games, you're really going to see where we could end up. I've looked at, I think it's 8 to 10. Next 8 to 10 are quite tough. But then our last 8 games, I think that we could do really well and not lose a game there. Again, none of them are easy. But if we can go into them last 8 games in and around that, then playoffs, in the playoffs certainly, but in and around the teams in the playoffs and the teams above us, it'd be great, because I think a lot of teams, I think Chesterfield in particular, have kind of got our run coming up now at the end of the season. So it's difficult to tell. Everyone's really still got to play each other at the minute. We're in the running, and not one game is going to change that. It's going to be a run of games that's going to see whether we've been knocked out or whether we're kind of fighting for top spot. So I must admit that I kind of fall for it every game, that now look how many points we've dropped, look how many places we could have got. But once you sit back and actually analyse, there's a lot of games to play, a lot of time to go, I suppose. But we'll see. At the minute, we're all right. We're in a good position. Games in hand, games that we should be winning. and then see what we can do in the next 10 games. And then I think we'll be having the conversation of, look, we can really kick on from here in our last 8 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point. If we were to beat Chesterfield tomorrow, you're within 3 points of them, and pre-James Rowe leaving the club, you would, there are very, very few people, i.e. just about none, that would have said we could get to within 3 points of Chesterfield in the next 5 or 6 weeks. So these things can change quite dramatically. I'll tell you one team who everyone seems to write off, okay? But even if we win our 1 game in hand, we only draw level with them. And that's Wrexham. And I think their fans aren't massively enamoured either with Phil Parkinson. But, and here's a stat for you, of their 29 games, but he played 12 at home. Played 17 away, 12 at home. Now that tells you you've got a lot of home games coming up, a lot of home games. And even with all the trials and tribulations that they've had and the focus, I for one, no one mentions them. People talk about Boreham Wood with games in hand. I think there's a lot of twists and turns, and we're kind of a bit dismissive of them. And no doubt we will form our opinion of them based on the trophy game, 10 days' time, which I've got to say, going off as a bit of a tangent here, I'm not that fussed about it, but I'm sure it will be different from your perspective in terms of what is at stake and going to see Notts at Wembley.
Yeah, we've had this conversation a lot. I get the whole thing. And to Halifax, actually, I was kind of like, I'm not going to be really downhearted if we lose. I mean, maybe that's because I was going into the game expecting to lose. I don't know, obviously, with what had happened earlier on in the season. But I think maybe a lot of supporters might be kind of changing their minds once you get to this kind of point in the FA Trophy when you really win with a chance. You've only got a couple of games to go. It's a home game. We all want to go to Wembley. I know we'd all rather go up. It's not, you don't really get a choice. It's not a choice like that. You don't either go up or win the trophy. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But we've got to go for it. And I know somebody could get injured, and it's in hindsight. But again, it can work in the opposite way. That's another game won, another home game won. It can boost our confidence. You know what I'm like. I'd love to go to Wembley and win the FA Trophy. We've been so close twice before. Can we go and do it again against kind of a better side as well, with it being Wrexham? We haven't lost to them this season. I know they're not a team to kind of be overlooked. I think with you saying that a lot of people are overlooking at the minute, that's possibly because of how much money they've spent. I think if Notts had have spent that kind of money, I would expect to see us in the top 3 right now, not be bottom end of the playoffs. And that's probably what their fans are thinking as well. But that doesn't mean that they can't, these set of players that they've got, they're talented enough to now go unbeaten till the end of the season. It might just flick a switch and that might be it for them. So it's difficult, but yeah, I'd love to go and win this game, get to another stage. I think it all helps. But it's funny you should mention their how many games they've played at home. I didn't know that, and that does make a huge difference. Obviously, I'm not sure. I haven't looked since the last 2 games, but we were 3rd in the home table, but 14th in the away. Like I say, since we've drawn at home and got an away win, that might have changed slightly, but our away form really needs to pick up, especially we've got a couple of tough away games coming up with Stockport, Dagenham, and a few others in there as well. I think we've got Torquay away as well. That needs to improve, and we need to be taking a point at least. Obviously, Chesterfield tomorrow. That's just the kind of going to be the difference. Our home form is incredible at the minute. But like you say, Wrexham's only played like 12, so theirs is obviously going to improve with how many games they've played. So it's just whether we can keep up our home record at the minute and then boost our away.
And here's the man himself, complete with cap.
Having a bad hair day.
How are you, dear boy? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. You well?
Yes, we're all very. Thank you for taking the time to join us. So while you're on, because I'm conscious your time is very valuable, give us the lowdown on runners and riders for tomorrow. What's been said at the presser today? Kyle Cameron issuing a sort of a championship rallying call, or whatever you want to call it. Well, give us the takeaways from today.
Well, Kyle Cameron was first up in the press conference. He spoke really well. Always does give a good interview, and I like the cut of his jib. To be fair, he was asked about the title race and whether Notts was still in it, and and he said that Notts are very much still among the runners and riders, and I would have to agree with him. I still think Notts have a chance of becoming champions at the end of the season. They would have to go on, admittedly, an incredible run to get there, but it's not beyond this team's capabilities. We've seen them go on excellent runs before. They've still got some very big games coming up, specifically playing Stockport at Edgeley Park. And they've got a couple of games in hand as well. So, and he was right, in fairness, with what he said about the running. I think Notts' running is one of those where you look at it and you go, blimey, they are games that you would expect to win. So if they can sort of enter that crucial phase of the season by being still in or around the race for top spot, I think they've got a fantastic chance. But in saying that, this is a crucial month and they just need to make sure they come out the other side of it still intact with the leaders.
In terms of team news for tomorrow, I guess one of the big talking points, he wasn't available for Saturday. Where is Kel Roberts at the moment?
Ian Birchnell was very coy. We asked him after the game on Saturday about whether Callum would be fit for Chesterfield. Didn't give much away. He was a very good poker player and he played his cards close to his chest again today. He will undergo a fitness test tomorrow morning. Birchnell said he was 50-50. Listen, I think Callum Roberts, with the form that he has been in, because he did have a little bit of a dip, but I would say in recent weeks, or certainly for the last month and a half or so, he has been absolutely terrific and he's back to the player that we have come to know and expect. 11 goals for the season. You would like to think that he will play some part tomorrow, even if it's just to have him on the bench. I think would be an absolute huge boost. I think when you go to one of your promotion rivals, and it is one of the biggest games of the season, you want all your big guns available. And we've seen that Roberts, Wootton and Rodriguez, that axis of excellence, whatever you want to call it, the triangle of terror, when they're on song, not many teams in this league can live with them. So, but in saying that, I thought Aaron Lemaine on Saturday had an excellent game, 2 assists, came in, did really well, was probably my man of the match. So we'll wait and see. But I think just to have Callum Roberts on the team sheet would be a massive boost, not just to the fans, but I think the dressing room as well. Because
I guess there is a bit of a subplot with Cal and Chesterfield, because as you ran the story, which is we thought maybe it didn't really happen. There was a concrete bid from Chesterfield for Kel, correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, it was absolutely correct. There was a bid from Chesterfield. Listen, I would say it was derisory. I think it's probably the best word to describe it. I think it fell well short of the money that Notts would expect for a player of his ability. And it spiced things up, hasn't it? Again, for the game tomorrow night. Obviously, Joel Taylor and Cairo Mitchell. I did ask Ian Birchnell today whether he'd lent on either of those to sort of get some insights into the Chesterfield players, but I think they'd done that earlier on in the season. I think it's got the makings of a terrific game. And listen, Chesterfield have got some real problems at the moment, by the way. I was reading their injury list today. I think Holby City has seen less injuries. They've got 8 players out, I think, in total, and Curtis Weston is suspended. So, for the neutral, you want all the best players to be playing in that game. You'd like them all, and you'd want the best players facing off against each other. But I think if you're a Notts fan going into that game tomorrow night, you look at the Chesterfield team, who's out, who could potentially be out. There's obviously no Shimanga. Notts by stark contrast, I think bar Roberts have got pretty much everybody fit. So it looks a good time to be going to play them, he says, touch wood. So, but I think it'll be a terrific game between two really good sides, and may the best team win.
I guess, Chloe, that there are not many local derbies, are there, in this National League National Division? In fact, anything under 150 miles almost is classed as a short trip these days. But kind of the whole rivalry with Chesterfield, which, to be honest, in my 50 years supporting Notts, has not really been much of a rivalry, if at all ever. It's kind of now, adopted Herculean proportions in kind of the last 12 months or so. We had the playoff game last year, didn't we, down here, added spice when James Rowe was there. For a lot of, especially our younger fans, this is a big deal now, playing Chesterfield. The social media hype, the banter between both sets of fans.
Not forgetting Calvin Miller, of course.
Miller, of course. Yeah, there's lots of subplots, but this kind of like is a big deal now, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's because we've played them quite a lot in the last few seasons. Like you say, that tends to be the only one close to us at all, really. I think after that, you're probably talking Solihull. Halifax isn't too bad, I suppose. And then you're talking like Kings Lynn and then Altrincham and Stockport. So you're getting further and further out. So, and a lot of our fans will probably live maybe closer to Chesterfield than they will Notts. So it's an interesting one. And it's good that we've got kind of, I quite like having a bit of a rivalry, having something to look forward to. It's a fixture that I certainly look out for when the fixture list comes out. It's an important one, and it kind of gives us something to get up for. Obviously, we're taking a great following. On a Tuesday night, it's incredible. I don't care how far away it is. To take just shy of 2,000 fans away in the National League is incredible. A lot of people don't get that at home. It's whether they've got all of their players fit or not. I'm sure it'll be a tasty game and a big crowd I'm expecting from them as well. And obviously, with what they've gone through with their manager, it's definitely kind of might be one for the cameras tomorrow, but we'll see how we go. But I completely agree with Leigh. We're probably in the best position we could be to play them. Obviously, they've won, I think, 1 in 5, whereas we've drawn 1 in 5 and won the rest, including the trophy game in that as well. They've had a change of manager, obviously got 8-9 players out. If we've got Cal back tomorrow, like Leigh says, we've got basically a fit squad. Of course they're going to be up for it. We can't write them off. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, I'd like to think that we won't lose tomorrow, touch wood, but let's see what happens.
Even without Shumanga, Leigh, and Rowe has 1 or 2 health issues, they're still not necessarily struggling up front, are they? What, Asante and Quigley, among others?
Yeah, both good players. Obviously, we've just mentioned Calvin Miller as well. I thought, along with Rodriguez, perhaps in those final 2 months of the season, he was probably the one of the standout players, wasn't he? He was absolutely sensational for that run-in. He had quite a difficult start to his life at Notts after coming in on loan from Harrogate, was in and out of the team. And then he seemed to make that switch when Ian Birchnell came in, and the move to 3-5-2 seemed to suit him perfectly, and he was excellent. Very quick, good feet. Defensively, you'd probably say there was still improvements to be made, but I think certainly in an attacking capacity, he was sensational. And clearly, listen, Notts wanted to do that deal. They wanted him to join the club in the summer, but unfortunately, Chesterfield blew them out of the water. So they managed to get the deal across the line. So yeah, like you say, you've got all these little subplots that are bubbling underneath the surface, which makes it a really fantastic game. Usually, the two clubs alone and the rivalry that they hold, is enough. But then you've got, like you say, you've got the Calvin Miller episode, you've got you know, who knows what could happen tomorrow night with Cairo Mitchell, whether he starts with us on the bench. Is he going to come on and score a goal against his old club? Is Joel Taylor going to come back? So you've got all these amazing little stories going on underneath. And, of course, at the top of that are two clubs, two rivals going head-to-head in the National League promotion race, which should make for a belting game and a cracking atmosphere. Although, am I right in thinking that Notts' record isn't particularly great at they call it the Technique Stadium now, don't they? I mean, I think I've only covered one win there, which was the 3-2, wasn't it, when we came back from 2-0 down to win 3-2 under Neil Ardley. But I remember going there when Kevin Nolan was in charge, and we were obviously challenging for promotion from League Two. It was the automatic chase, wasn't it? And we went there and they had Andy Kellett,
didn't we?
Andy Kellett and Christian Dennis, I think, played that game as well, didn't they?
And Kellett.
Yeah, Kellett in the centre midfield. So, but let's hope it's another 3 points for Notts tomorrow night.
Yeah, it will also be a night, Chloe, where you can kind of forget we're in the National League, in the sense that there's clearly, like you said, fantastic away following, decent stadium, decent pitch, a lot of atmosphere, rivalry among two sets of fans. You know, this could quite easily be a League One fixture, let alone League Two. Games under lights always seem to have a bit of an extra added spice. So, you know, I think tomorrow it could be quite feisty, you know, both on and off the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're actually quite lucky, I think, especially this season, to have a few of them games that could be a League Two or a League One fixture. But like you say, with the kind of added rivalry and everything else that's happened, that it's a great game. And I know we've obviously been chosen to be on TV at home against them. So it's clearly a fixture that they want to advertise for the National League. But yeah, I agree with you about a Tuesday night game. I love a game under the lights, especially an away game. And when you haven't got too far to travel, it's always a bonus on a Tuesday night. So yeah, a lot of things to look forward to. I think the only thing that you might say might not be as good as a fixture as it possibly could be is with all of their injuries. That's not to say that we're just going to steamroller them and that the players that they have got fit aren't good enough, because that's not the case at all. But yeah, this fixture is not going to be out of place in a Football League side, and hopefully we'll be back there soon. And Chesterfield could also do it. We could do it in the same season, but I don't think it'll be long until you see us both back in the Football League.
NCFC Pie says 3-0 to Notts with a 90th minute goal to cap off a great performance. Hey, Lee. While you're on, Lee, one or two people asking a few bits and pieces. Jim O'Brien, is he still... what's the situation with Jim?
Working away in training. He had been out for a long while, but he's back fit again, and he is currently working on the training ground. So, but again, I mean, it's like this issue again with the 7 subs. I'm pretty sure if we had 7 subs, he'd be among them. But of course, you only get 5 in the National League, which is just ridiculous. But so it makes it very difficult to choose a bench. I mean, obviously, Alex Lacey, Joel Taylor have missed out in the last couple of games. Sorry, I know Alex was back on the bench for Woking, but obviously missed the Halifax game. So these are tough decisions that obviously Ian's having to make. And obviously if Roberts is fit, somebody else is going to miss out tomorrow night. So it just goes to underline and show the strength and depth of the squad, really. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But yeah, that's what's the latest is happening with Jim.
Joel Taylor?
Again, I asked this question in a press conference, or it might have been after a game, actually. I think with Adam Chickson playing so well, I think there's Conor Rawlinson's been on the bench as forward, Cairo Mitchell. I just think it is just a case of literally the substitutions or the amount of substitutes that Ian can field, and the fact that Adam Chickson is currently playing really well.
Nigel Cameron says, tough one to call tomorrow night, but fancy Notts away from home more than I do at home at the moment. So I'm going for a gritty 1-0. Dale Pike, a 2-1 win in the trophy. I thought we won in the trophy, as well as the 3-2. No, yeah, I think it is on the telly tomorrow, isn't it, Lee? BT? Or have I got that wrong?
No, I think you could be right, actually.
I think it's on the telly, but I might be open. Some people here are saying it is, others aren't. I have a feeling it's on the telly, but so if you can't get, you should be able to watch it on the telly. And I think also, Chloe, Wrexham in the trophy, that's being streamed, isn't it?
This is what I've heard. Again, I'm not sure.
It's something to do with it's outside the mainstream slot. So Notts can put it on a stream on that Friday night, I believe, which obviously will help Wrexham fans, because getting from Wrexham over here on a Friday afternoon is not the greatest journey, to be fair to them. No one seems to know whether it is on the telly. We'll see if we can find out.
No, I've just had a look, and it doesn't say. It doesn't say. Not the game at Meadow Lane definitely is.
Right. Okay.
I can't see it. I'm having a quick look on their TV guide. I imagine
on the telly then. I've thrown for those of you who haven't got a ticket. I'm afraid you're going to be stuck with Charlie Slater and Mark Stallard. My apologies for raising your hopes. What are two people saying? The pitch is not great. And I think James Muir had a dig at this, Lee, before he left, didn't he? Other matches played on it now, but I didn't think it was that bad, the pitch there.
I don't think it's ever been what I would call a billiard table surface, is it? I think it has had problems in the past.
Compared to Dover, it's Wembley.
Yeah, there is that. When you're comparing it to the likes of Kings Lynn, then it's like Anfield, isn't it? But I don't foresee any problems. I mean, it's raining here where I am in Lincoln at the moment. It's absolutely tipping it down, but I don't really foresee any problems, to be honest. I think the game will be absolutely fine. We're not going to have any late postponements. I certainly haven't heard anything. Let's put it that way.
We were talking about that. Yeah, I mean, just open the debate slightly, Lee. And we've been talking about promotion, playoffs, runners and riders. Clearly Stockport would appear to be the one to have to chase down. Remarkable run of results under Dave Challoner, something like 13 wins in 16 games. Absolutely remarkable. Kyle clearly believes Notts can, with a tailwind, still claw them back. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, I don't. There's 16 games to go. There's still a hell of a lot of football to be played. I think Notts' running is certainly one of the more favourable ones. And it's like I said, I think if they can be in a position where, they've got 2 games and they win that, they've still got to go to Edgeley Park. If they can beat Stockport there, that's 9 points. And they're only 12 off them. And then if you can be in that position where you're sort of 3 points behind them going into the final few weeks of the season, then, as we've seen, anything can happen. And I think Notts are certainly a team that are very good when they've got momentum behind them. They've shown that already this season. And to be fair to them, when they've had a couple of setbacks, when it was Wealdstone 0-0 and then we lost to Bromley and then Grimsby, thinking, oh, well, okay, is that what's happening here? Their actual response to that has been, is to win 4 games out of 5. So I think that's the one thing that does give me a lot of encouragement about this Notts team, is that the response to setbacks has actually been pretty good this year. I think what's perhaps separates Stockport from the rest is they've got no real injury problems. The key players always seem to be fit. They seem to have a bit of momentum behind them at the moment. But like I say, everything is still to be played for. Notts have 2 games in hand. They can win those. Beat Stockport, that's 9. And then I think Stockport have got a quite a tricky run-in with some of the teams that they face. So you've just got to be in a position to capitalise. I think that's what I've always said. Just get yourselves into that position, keep ticking them off, and then look where you are sort of in the final month or final couple of weeks of the season, because I do think this team is capable, especially if everybody's fit. I mean, and touch wood that everybody stays fit. they have got a fantastic chance. I do think they can do it, because I think what we will see is, obviously, it's the head of communications, Nick Richardson, and I sit next to him pretty much every game. We have this running joke how none of the top sides seem to be playing each other at the moment, do they? So there must be some part where there's going to be some real crunch games in and around the division, and who knows how those games are going to go. If you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, I thought Bromley were going to launch a considered title challenge, but they've slipped away from it. Teams like Solihull, Moors, and Halifax are still hanging in there. I think Boreham Wood, I think they're still one of the teams to watch, because I think they're so well organised and they don't concede many goals. But in terms of attacking quality, tempo, intensity, individual ability, I think Notts have got a terrific chance. You look at some of the players they walk into most League Two teams. So I think it's just a case of keeping them fit and playing as well as what they have been doing in these sort of recent 5 games. There've been some excellent performances. I know we talk about the Halifax and it was draw, and people went away a little bit disappointed that we didn't pick up all 3 points, but that is the most dominant performance I can recall from a Notts team in a very long time. And I would suggest that if you played that game 10 times, 9 times out of 10, they would come out away with all 3 points. It was just one of those evenings where it just wouldn't go in, would it? So, and I think what we should add to that is that players who have perhaps had to wait for their opportunity. I think Eli Sam has come on leaps and bounds in these last few weeks. Did the switch to the 4-2-3-1, and him playing on the left-hand side seems to suit him perfectly. His decision-making has got so much better. That was one of my biggest complaints to him, that I felt that when he was in his own half, that's when the problems started. But his decision-making has got a lot better. He's produced a terrific finish at the weekend. He seems to be hitting form. Ruben seems to be feeling his way back to it. I thought he was very good again on Saturday. Aaron Domain's come in. So you've got all these players, and we're not even spoken about the back four. I thought were terrific on Saturday. Everyone was talking about the goal scorers and the ruthlessness, but actually the back four were excellent. Didn't concede a single chance. Carl Cameron and Richard Brindley seem to have made those positions their own. And the fullbacks seem to be very good. If Jaden Richardson goes forward, Adam Chickson hangs back, and vice versa. They all just seem to be in sync at the moment. So it's looking pretty good. But tomorrow night will tell us a lot more. I think if we can go there and get 3 points, I think that, and the sort of the confidence you could take from beating one of your promotion rivals, could be a really, really good catalyst to go on a great run from now until the end of the season.
Would you still be expecting Notts to have the lion's share of possession tomorrow?
Yes.
Because?
I just think the way they're set up, they're such a well-coached team. And what I like about them is it doesn't matter who they're playing. They always stick to the same principles. They don't ever abandon it. It's a bit like, if you watch a Manchester City, for example, Pep Guardiola never strays from their principles. They always play the same way. And I just think that Notts have got it such down to a fine art now that the players know their roles and responsibilities. The thing that perhaps, if I was to have a touch of concern, is when, how good are they when faced with a high press? They seem to have kind of worked that out. I know we mentioned it earlier on in shows earlier on in the season, how difficult they found it when teams pressed them high up the park, and could they keep possession and move through the thirds? But they seem to have sorted that out. And I like the 4-2-3-1 formation. I'm its biggest advocate. I think it's my favourite formation personally, and I think actually it suits the players that we've got, because as well as 3-5-2 has served this, Callum, for instance, would have to play a more central role, where I actually think his best position is actually on the right flank, cutting in on his left foot. I think that's where he causes you the most problems, and he certainly did that in the season. We reached the final under Neil in it. When he came in from Blythe, he was absolutely unstoppable in those sort of final in his first couple of months. So I think that suits him. It seems to suit Eli as well. And Ruben goes back into the 10 position and sort of floats up here, there, and everywhere. So I there's a lot of good things about Notts at the moment, and certainly Matt Palmer and Ed Francis, as the holding midfielders. I mean, if the season was to end tomorrow, Matt Palmer would be my player of the season. I think he's terrific. I know we speak about Rodriguez, Roberts, and Kyle, but I think Matt Palmer, in terms of consistency level and his consistent quality and his ability on the ball, been an unbelievable signing. So those two with the back four, it just seems to be a very good formation for the players that we've got.
Who would your player of the season so far be, Chloe?
Oh, I don't know. I think they've all had their moments of brilliance and also quiet parts. So I think, like Leigh said, consistency. Palmer played must have played virtually every minute.
Yeah, he has played every minute. Every minute of the national games.
Yeah.
Every minute of the National League game so far, he's played every single minute, which is astonishing, really. I mean, Carl Wootton's been very good, don't get me wrong. I mean, to get to, I think he's 16, 17 goals this season. Again, double figures, very reliable. Ruben's been there. I think the one thing that perhaps separates Matty from those three is those three have all had sort of dips in form throughout the season, whereas Matty has stayed consistent, has been consistently brilliant all the way through. Terrific signing. I'm amazed that Notts have got him. I think he's a player that could easily play League One with his eyes closed. But so hopefully, it's he can sort of carry on that form and we can have a good, strong end to the season.
A few more from our flock. Wayne Wilkins, since Challoner took over Stockport at the start of November, they've conceded 10 league goals, scored, I think, 47 in that time too. Very attacking, yes, but you win this league by not conceding. Max Seth says, watching Chesterfield against Yeovil on Saturday night, they like the switch out to the left-hand side with Kelvin Miller. Someone has to sit on their anchor man to stop that approach. Chris Gosling, I think if they press high, we can find plenty of gaps behind them. I think they'll set up cautiously against us to start with, particularly with their injury problems. Max Seth adds, they weren't afraid to go long to Asante either. He isn't a normal target man, but he's irritating up top, so we have to cancel out that anchor man to stop them making the long ball passes. There seems to be fairly unequivocal support for Matty Palmer as player of the year so far. In fact, I think everybody. Dale Pikett, this one, I've missed this one. Lee Bradbury is the new Eastleigh manager. Yeah, not a bad appointment on the face of it. Mark Leach says, Carl Cameron, the player of the season so far. Yeah, I think there could be an argument made for Kyle. There could be an argument made for Kyle. Sebastian Van Harten, dreaming of a stress-free mid-table season in the EFL. Always a pleasure to listen, Paul. Come on, you pies from Norway. Norway branch out in force. I think we'd probably best wrap up because I know Lee's probably got to file another 142 stories across the Midlands. It's interesting, isn't it? 2 months ago, we wouldn't have been giving ourselves too much of a chance at Chesterfield. We're kind of almost now all talking ourselves into they're on the dip. They've got a load of injuries. We'll win tomorrow. I think however it pans out tomorrow, I do think it's going to be a very, very tight game.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's because it's a derby, isn't it? And these games never go according to how you think they're going to go. I mean, I'm with you. I think it'll be a war of attrition. I think these games are always tight. Very seldom that anybody takes a battering. And we have to remember, I think there'll be a few nerves in there as well. I think there'll be a few nerves in the dressing room. I think Chesterfield will look at it as a game they can't afford to lose because of the run that they're on at the moment. And not see it as the game they have to win. So I think, given their position, I think we're probably going to get a draw, aren't we? There's just in saying that. But no, I think with the players at the moment. Chesterfield also seem to be in this sort of transitional period where they're changing the style of play. You know, James Rowe was quite a direct manager, 3-5-2. Whereas Paul Cook has obviously been renowned for being a manager who likes to keep it on the deck. So how, and this is what's fascinating to me in terms of how Chesterfield season is going to pan out, is how those players that James Rowe bought for his system, how are they going to adapt to how Paul Cook wants them to play? So that's the big challenge, because if you look at the way Neil had Notts playing before Ian came in, they were a possession-based side. They weren't a big lumpet. So it actually, in terms of Ian's getting his ideas across, it would have been quite straightforward, because they were, you know, they Notts were a possession-based team. I think with Chesterfield, with the direct approach, have they got, you know, how quickly are they going to take on board Paul Cook's ideas at a time of the season when there is a great deal of pressure to get results? I think that's what's going to be fascinating to see how that unfolds in terms of Chesterfield's own promotion push. But yeah, but they are really struggling with injuries at the moment. So, but like I said, these games are always keenly contested, aren't they?
Wayne Wilkins, our resident Magpie in Barcelona, I believe, will be listening in with a sangria in hand. He said, Chris Jordan, to be honest, I'd settle for a scrappy 5-0 win. Neil Woodison, I don't class this one as a derby. Gary Wardle, it's got to be a win. Don't think draws will damage fellow contenders enough. I can see Chesney going down to 10 tomorrow. Yeah, I wonder what the odds are on 22 players finishing the game. Be interesting. Chloe, last word with you. This will be the first time, I think I'm right, that Chesterfield and ourselves have crossed swords since the 3-2 playoff win, correct? I guess we would readily settle for a repeat of that kind of game, but more importantly, that kind of result.
I think more the result, to be honest. I remember watching the game on TV and thinking we're getting absolutely battered here, and then all of a sudden, I think there was 2 in injury time or late on at least. I think
Mark Ellis, wasn't it, with the winner?
Mark Ellis got the late winner. If you remember,
I think
their goalkeeper got injured, didn't he? And
yes.
and had he made the subs or didn't have a replacement sub, so he had to hobble around the goal for about a second.
I remember the rewrite. I remember that.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that I'd rather have the game done and dusted by that point in the game. I don't know how well my nerves would handle that. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I wish I was at that game. Obviously, it ended brilliantly. But yeah, I'd like to have it kind of done and dusted before that. I don't think that is not going to be that easy. But we've talked about the red card. I don't think we've had one this season. I think we're one of the only teams that haven't had a man sent off. So right. I hope we can get through tomorrow without having a red card. And then see where we go. But like you say, Paul, we're all hoping for the win, and we're all kind of, like you say, talking ourselves into, well, we should be able, with a fully fit squad, be able to beat a team that's got half their first team out. But like you say, games never go the way you think they will. I personally think there's going to be a goal either end, which probably means there's going to be neither, and it'll end 0-0. So, but no, I think if I had to pick a result out of a hat, 2-1, and I'd hopefully be talking Notts, but we'll see, won't we, tomorrow?
Tell you what would be good, final note, because when we asked this question, no one could really come up with one other than Grimsby. You know, a last-minute winner. You know, 0-0, 94th minute winner, 1-0, off you go back home with 3 points down the M1. Hey, forget the XG and possession stats and all the rest of it. You cannot beat a last-minute winner, right? Especially away from home. You know,
I'll make sure I stay till the end as well.
And let's be honest, if we're going to get anywhere near top spot or second or third, we'll need to win a few matches in the last minute. And if ever you needed a last minute winner, it was Halifax last week, wasn't it? Then you're talking 4 wins on the bounce. It's great that we've won 3 and drawn 1 and got 10 out of 12. But if you've beaten Halifax, you've won 4 on the bounce after having that little blip. So let's see what we can do. Thank you very much indeed for logging on tonight. Hopefully everyone has got their tickets. Hopefully everyone has not lost their ticket, whilst you might have a problem. We've established that he's not on BT Sport tomorrow, so you'll have to listen to Charlie and Mark Stallard. I think
or join the blog. Or join the blog, by the way.
Or sorry, or join. Yes, for those of you who can't get BBC Radio Nottingham. Follow Leigh Curtis's live Nottingham Post blog. I think we're all sorted for tickets. Quick reminder about my lad and my producer, Harry, who's hence someone taking the mick out of the Mace 28 shirt. That's because it's 28 miles, isn't it, tomorrow and Mace. So that's not that we've ever got anywhere near a squad number otherwise. Okay, that's as close as it will get, I promise you. But he's very close to the £500 that we've been aiming for now. Please take a look if you can donate a £5 or something. Everyone donates a £5 or more, you go in a draw to watch a Notts County training session. I've got 4 places with shirt sponsorship deals this year, so we're giving one of those away to a winner in the lucky draw from whoever sponsors Harry for £5 or more. Thank you very much indeed for tonight. Chloe, thank you very much. Safe journey tomorrow.
Thanks a lot, Paula. I don't think I'll be leaving early tomorrow. I've got nowhere to be, so a last minute one I'll stay in.
You haven't seen a last minute winner this season, have you?
Not yet, no.
There you go. Leigh, thank you ever so much for taking time out your busy schedule today.
No problem at all.
And we will see you up at the Technique Stadium or whatever it is tomorrow.
Lovely.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.